I remember that morning as if it had happened yesterday. My name is James Ward, 32 years old, an ordinary waiter at a small cafe by the Seattle harbor. The place is called Harbor Light, right in the heart of the waterfront, where the salty sea breeze drifts through the glass windows. Every time a ship docks, my life was simple. Wake up early, brew coffee, serve customers, then head home to Mom. No grand dreams, just enough to pay the bills and keep her happy. My mother, Renee, was everything to me. She raised me single-handedly, her hands rough from years of laundry and hard work. I never asked about my father. Mom said he left long ago and I learned to accept it. But sometimes I'd glance at the tattoo on her wrist. 2 interlocking rings like a promise broken long ago, and wonder if her life had once held something more beautiful than this. That morning, Seattle's sky was its usual gray, a light drizzle making the streets glisten. The cafe was busier than normal, laughter blending with the hiss of the coffee machine and the rich aroma of roasted beans. I was wiping down the counter, checking cups, making sure everything was perfect when the door chime jingled. Leonard Baxter walked in, right on time as always. He was the cafe's most regular customer, always sitting at the corner table overlooking Elliott Bay. He ordered black coffee, no sugar, nothing else. Just sat there quietly, gazing at the sea as if pondering the entire world. Everyone in Seattle knew who he was, Leonard Baxter. Titan of defense and energy industries, owner of Baxter Arms, a massive empire producing weapons and energy technology. The press called him the Man of Steel. Cold, reserved, rarely smiling, and never one for small talk. And yet, here he was, as familiar as the morning drizzle, staring out at the harbor, like some man carrying the weight of the entire world. I carried Leonard Baxter's coffee to his usual corner table, trying not to let my hands shake. Not from fear exactly, well, maybe a little, but more from the strange sense that something today was different. He looked up briefly, his icy blue eyes scanning me like he could see straight into my mind. A shiver ran down my spine, though I couldn't explain why. "Morning, Mr. Baxter," I said, setting the cup down. "Black, no sugar as usual." He nodded, almost imperceptibly, and returned to staring at the water. The way he sat there, so composed, so untouchable, made me feel both insignificant and curious all at once. Everyone knew him, feared him, respected him, but no one really knew him. I wiped a counter nearby, pretending to busy myself, yet my eyes kept darting back to him. There was something about the way he held his hands, the faint tremor in one wrist, the same hand that might have held a pen signing deals worth millions in mere seconds. And then I noticed it, a small tattoo just peeking from under his cuff, partially hidden. 2 interlocking rings. My heart stopped. That tattoo, it was exactly like my mother's. I froze mid-wipe. Could it be? Could this cold, untouchable billionaire have any connection to Mom? My mind raced, each possibility more absurd than the last. Maybe a coincidence. But the design was so specific, so personal. I had to ask. I swallowed, trying to steady my voice. "Sir, Mr. Baxter," I began, my words trembling despite my best efforts. "My mother, she has a tattoo. It's just like yours." For the first time, he looked at me directly. Those piercing blue eyes softened, just slightly, but enough to make my stomach twist. He slowly rose from his chair, the cafe falling into a hush as everyone sensed the shift. Leonard Baxter, the man who had towered over industries, over people's lives, over headlines, was now kneeling before me. I stumbled back, shocked. What are you doing?" He didn't answer at first. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folded photograph. He held it out with a trembling hand. I took it, my fingers brushing his. The photograph showed a young woman, smiling, vibrant, her wrist visible, tattooed with the same 2 interlocking rings. A name was scrawled on the back. Renee Ward, my mother. Leonard Baxter's voice was low, almost reverent when he finally spoke. "I never thought I'd find you, or that you'd find me first." My mind spun. Questions, memories, doubts, everything collided. Who was he to my mother? Why had this secret been buried for so long? And why did it feel like my ordinary life had just been ripped open, revealing something far bigger than I could ever imagine? I knew at that moment that nothing would ever be the same again. Before I continue, tell, from which place are you watching this story right now? Please subscribe and like the video for motivation. I held the photograph in my hands, unable to speak. My pulse thundered in my ears. How could this be real? My mother's past, something I had never asked about, suddenly collided with the most powerful man I had ever seen in person. Leonard Baxter stayed kneeling, his gaze fixed on me, calm but heavy with unspoken words. The cafe buzzed softly around us, unaware of the storm that had just erupted in our corner. "James," he said finally, his voice low, careful, almost afraid of disturbing the weight of his own words. "There are things about your mother, things about your family, that I never wanted anyone to know. I never expected to meet her son." I swallowed hard, trying to process. "Sir, I don't understand." "What do you mean? Who is she?" "Really?" He let out a quiet sigh, the first real crack in his iron demeanor. "Renee, she was part of something extraordinary, a secret, a connection that both of us thought would vanish into the past. And now seeing you here, I realize that past has caught up." My mind raced. My mother, my simple, strong, hard-working mother, had secrets, had a past that linked her to a man like Leonard Baxter. It felt impossible, yet here he was, kneeling, holding a photograph that confirmed everything. "I need to know," I said, my voice firmer now. "Everything. Why does she have the same tattoo as you? Who is she to you?" Leonard's eyes softened, flicking to the photograph again, then back to me. "She was someone I loved, someone I lost. And that tattoo?" He gestured to his wrist, the two interlocking rings shining faintly beneath his cuff. "It was meant to remind her of a promise we made. A promise that, for reasons I thought necessary, I could never keep." I felt my stomach tighten. The calm certainty I had felt my entire life, my ordinary, predictable life, crumbled in an instant. My mother's past wasn't just a story. It was intertwined with the most untouchable, powerful man in the city. And somehow, it was connected to me. "I don't understand," I admitted, voice small. "If she was important to you, why didn't you ever come back? Why didn't you find her?" He looked down, a rare vulnerability in the lines of his face. "Because some promises, some mistakes, are too dangerous to revisit. I thought keeping distance would protect her. And now..." His gaze lifted, meeting mine with intensity. "I fear that distance has cost more than I ever imagined." I glanced at the photograph again, my hand trembling slightly. My mother's smile seemed so distant, almost as if she knew something I didn't. And I realized that my life, my simple, ordinary life, was about to change forever. "James," Leonard continued, rising slowly to his full height, "there are things you need to know about your family, about your past, and about what my world has to do with it. But first..." He paused, a small, almost hesitant smile breaking his stern mask. "We need to be certain you're ready for the truth." I nodded, though fear and curiosity battled within me. "I'm ready," I said. And somehow I knew, no matter what came next, nothing would ever be the same again. The cafe felt impossibly quiet now, the hum of conversation fading into the background as Leonard Baxter led me to a small corner, away from the curious eyes of other patrons. My mind spun with 1,000 questions, but one burned hotter than the rest. What did my mother have to do with this man? He motioned for me to sit. I hesitated for a moment, the photograph still clutched tightly in my hands. Leonard reached into his coat again and pulled out a sleek black leather folder. Sliding it across the table, he opened it carefully, revealing documents, photographs, and notes. "This," he began, "is everything I have kept from the world. It's about Renee, about the choices she made, and about the danger that followed us both." I leaned in, my heartbeat loud in my ears. I saw a photograph of my mother, so young, so radiant, wearing a necklace I'd never seen before. Next to her was Leonard, younger too, his usual stern demeanor softened by a genuine smile. They were laughing, carefree, almost ordinary. "She wasn't just a waitress, James," he continued, his voice low, almost reverent. "She was different, brave, brilliant, part of something bigger than either of us could have imagined at the time." I stared at the photograph, feeling an ache in my chest. I had always known Mom had worked hard, sacrificed everything for me, but this was a side of her I had never glimpsed. A secret life. She was involved in something dangerous? I asked cautiously. Leonard nodded, a shadow crossing his face. "Yes, she stumbled into a world of power, influence, and betrayal. One wrong move and lives could be destroyed. She chose to walk away, to protect you, to protect herself." I couldn't wrap my mind around it. My mother, the quiet, nurturing woman who made the best apple pie in Seattle, had lived a life filled with secrets, danger, and somehow Leonard Baxter. Why didn't you come back for her? I pressed, unable to hide the ache in my voice. He inhaled sharply. I tried countless times, but some promises, some debts, cannot be undone. I feared that finding her would put her and you in danger. I thought distance was protection. I felt a mix of anger and awe. Anger that my mother had carried this burden alone, awe that she had survived, and awe that Leonard, a man who commanded empires, had been tied to her in ways I could barely imagine. Then he leaned closer, his expression grave. There's something you need to know, James. That tattoo, it's more than a symbol. It's a key, a promise, a marker of something she entrusted only to those she trusted with her life. And now, it's on you, whether you realize it or not. I looked down at my hands, remembering how I had subconsciously touched my own wrist this morning. Thinking of Mom, my heart pounded. Was I ready for this truth? Leonard's eyes bored into mine, unwavering. The world she left behind, it's coming back, and you are now part of it. You have a choice, James. You can continue your ordinary life, pretending none of this exists, or you can step into her story, step into the truth, and find out what she risked everything to protect you from. I swallowed hard, my fingers trembling over the photograph. My ordinary life, the cafe, the mornings, the quiet dinners with Mom, felt suddenly fragile, unreal. The weight of choices I had never made pressed down on me. And yet, a fire sparked in my chest. I want to know, I said, my voice firmer now, though my hands still shook. I want to know everything. Leonard Baxter gave a faint, approving nod. Then we begin. But James, be warned, once you step into this world, nothing will ever be safe. Not you, not your mother, not anyone you care about. I nodded again, the gravity of his words sinking in. I felt fear, yes, but also a strange exhilaration. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just waiting tables. I was part of something bigger, something dangerous, something extraordinary. And I had no choice but to follow. It to the very end. The rain outside had grown heavier, streaking the cafe windows, making the world beyond feel distant, almost unreal. Leonard Baxter leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing slightly as he considered his next words. I could feel the weight of them before he even spoke. Renee Ward, he began slowly, his voice low, measured, was not just an ordinary woman. She was exceptional, brilliant, resourceful, and brave in ways most could never comprehend. And she had enemies, powerful ones, men who would not hesitate to destroy anyone. Connected to her if they discovered the truth. I felt my stomach tighten. Enemies? What kind of enemies? He hesitated, then continued. People tied to corporations, governments, intelligence networks, people who deal in secrets, in betrayal, in power that no ordinary life could survive. Renee walked into their world by accident, and she survived by her wits, by courage, and by making choices that most would never understand. I looked at him stunned. And the tattoo? The rings. What do they mean? He traced the edge of the photograph with a calloused finger. The rings are a symbol of a pact, a promise, a bond. They signify trust, protection, and allegiance. She carried it as a reminder of those she could trust and those she could not. And now, James, that trust extends to you, whether you're ready or not. I swallowed hard, my mind spinning. My ordinary life, the cafe, my mornings with Mom, my quiet routines, suddenly felt fragile, as if I had been living in a fragile bubble that had just burst. Why now? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Why tell me all this now? Leonard's gaze softened slightly. Because the world she left behind is coming back, and it's looking for her. And anyone connected to her. You, James, are part of that connection. That tattoo isn't just a symbol, it's a beacon. And the people who want to control or destroy her will not stop. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady my shaking hands. Fear mixed with a strange exhilaration coursed through me. This wasn't just a story of my mother's past. It was my life now, colliding with forces I had never imagined. And you? I asked, my voice firmer now. Why are you telling me all this? Why not keep it hidden? He looked at me, his expression unreadable. Yet there was something in his eyes, a rare vulnerability that made me lean in closer. Because, James, I owe her that. And I owe you that. She trusted me once, and now, in a way, she's trusting you. You need to understand what she sacrificed, what she endured, and why she kept you away from this world. You need to be ready for what's coming. I nodded, determination and fear wrestling within me. Then tell me everything. I need to know who she was, who she is, and what danger is coming. Leonard Baxter's eyes softened into something almost human, less the untouchable. Billionaire, more a man weighed down by years of secrets, regrets, and promises. Very well, James, but know this. Once you hear it, there's no turning back. You will step into a world of danger, deception, and power, and your life will never be ordinary again. I braced myself, the photograph still clutched in my hands, my pulse racing. I felt the ordinary life I had known slip further and further away. I was about to learn everything, the love, the betrayal, the danger, and the secrets that had defined my mother's life. And I knew deep in my chest that I was ready to face it all. That night I couldn't sleep. The photograph of my mother, the words of Leonard Baxter, the weight of the tattoo, it all pressed down on me like a storm I couldn't escape. I paced my small apartment, the rain tapping against the windows in sync with my racing heart. Everything I had known about my life, my ordinary routines, the quiet safety of Seattle Harbor, my evenings with Mom, had vanished. In a single conversation, couldn't stop thinking about the words. Leonard had said, "The world she left behind is coming back, and it's looking for her, and anyone connected to her." By morning, I knew I had a choice. I could continue as I had, pretending nothing had changed, or I could step into the unknown and face the truth of my mother's life. The decision felt terrifying, but I couldn't ignore it. Not after seeing Leonard Baxter kneel before me, handing me pieces of my mother's hidden life, as if trusting me to carry the next part of her story. I went to the cafe, hoping to find him there. Again, Leonard was already sitting at his usual corner table, black coffee steaming in front of him. He looked up as I approached, his piercing gaze assessing me, weighing me. "You made your choice," he said simply. I nodded. "I need to know. I'm ready." He studied me for a moment before sliding another folder across the table. This one was thicker, heavier, filled with papers, photographs, and maps. I opened it carefully. My hands shook slightly as I scanned the contents. Photographs of my mother in unfamiliar cities, meeting people whose faces were familiar from news reports as powerful business figures, intelligence operatives, even a few I didn't recognize at all. "She was everywhere," I whispered, awe and fear mingling in my voice. She wasn't just living a normal life." Leonard's eyes softened. "No, and that life, it's coming back. Those who wish to control it will stop at nothing. That tattoo isn't just a mark, it's a signal. Anyone who recognizes it knows what your mother represented, and what she might have taken with her." I realized then that my life as a waiter, my quiet mornings and simple evenings had ended. This was no longer about curiosity. It was about survival, about understanding the full scope of what my mother had protected me from, and preparing for the danger that had now found its way to me. And then the first real threat arrived. A shadow moved outside the cafe window, subtle but deliberate. I noticed it instantly, the way someone lingered, watching, calculating. My pulse quickened. Leonard followed my gaze, his face tightening. "They've found the signal," he said quietly. "The people who want her life, her secrets, they know someone connected to her exists. And they're coming." I felt a shiver run through me. I was just a waiter, not a fighter. Not someone trained to deal with the dangerous world my mother had walked through. Yet for the first time, I felt a surge of determination. I had to protect her. I had to survive. I had to understand everything. Leonard stood towering, calm, but I could sense the tension beneath his control. "You will need training, understanding, strategy. You are no longer just James Ward, waiter. You are part of something much larger now." I swallowed hard, my hands clenching into fists. "I'm ready," I said, though fear and uncertainty burned through me like fire. He nodded. "Good. The first lesson begins tonight. Survival isn't just about fighting, it's about thinking, observing, predicting. And you, James, must learn faster than anyone else, because they won't wait for you to be ready." As the rain pounded against the cafe windows, I realized this was the moment my ordinary life ended. The streets of Seattle, the harbor, my small apartment, all of it felt suddenly tiny, fragile, irrelevant. Beyond those glass walls lay a world of secrets, danger, and power, and I, James Ward, was stepping into it. I glanced once at the photograph of my mother, her vibrant, fearless smile staring back at me. I felt a fire ignite inside me, the same fire that had burned in her for years. Whatever came next, I would face it. I would survive. and I would protect the woman who had given me everything, even if it meant stepping into the shadows she had once fled. Night had fallen over Seattle, the harbor shrouded in mist and the distant glow of ships, lights shimmering across the water. Leonard Baxter led me down a narrow alley behind the cafe, his long coat brushing against the wet pavement. The folder from earlier was tucked under his arm. But my eyes were on everything around us, the shadows, the corners, the sense that we were being watched. You'll need to understand how they operate, Leonard said quietly, his voice almost blending with the drizzle. They're methodical, patient, and ruthless. One mistake, one hesitation, and they won't stop. I nodded, my fingers tightening around the folder. Every fiber of my being screamed that I was out of my depth. Yet I couldn't turn back. My mother's life, her sacrifices, and now my own survival demanded that I move. Forward. We stopped in front of a nondescript warehouse near the docks. Leonard pressed a key into a hidden panel beside the door, and it slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the space was vast and dimly lit, filled with maps, screens, and equipment I didn't recognize. This is where you begin, he said. You need to learn to see what they see, to anticipate what they anticipate. And most importantly, you need to understand the network of people your mother dealt with, and the ones who would stop at nothing to find her. He handed me a tablet displaying a grid of faces, some familiar, most not. Names, affiliations, locations, everything was here. I stared, overwhelmed. Each person represented a potential threat or ally, and the tattoo, my mother's, now mine, was the key that tied them all together. They know the mark. Leonard continued. Anyone with even a hint of it in their circle can trace it. That's why she hid, and that's why she stayed away from you. But now, they've found you. A sudden noise outside the warehouse made us both freeze. Leonard's eyes sharpened, calculating. Good, real-world test. Stay sharp! Before I could process, the shadows shifted. Two men appeared at the edge of the dim light, their movements silent, precise. They were watching, waiting. I realized instantly they weren't random. They were sent to track me, to test me, to see if I could handle what my mother had endured. Leonard moved first, fluid and controlled, intercepting the men with a swift, precise action that left me wide-eyed. Stay behind me, he commanded, but I refused. Fear still gripped me. But something stronger, resolve, drove me forward. I glanced at the tablet. The faces of the men were already marked, names flashing red. My hands shook, but I remembered what Leonard had said. Observe, predict, survive. I ducked behind a stack of crates, counting their steps, noting their positions. My heart pounded, but I began to understand the rhythm, the pattern. These were the same people who had haunted my mother's past. Relentless, calculating, deadly. The confrontation was brief, but intense. Leonard and I moved as one, anticipation and strategy guiding our every step. By the time the men retreated into the shadows, I realized I had just survived. My first brush with the world my mother had hidden from me, breathless. I turned to Leonard. I think I understand now. I need to learn. I need to be ready. He nodded, a rare, approving smile crossing his face. Good. That's the first step. Fear is natural. But courage, strategy, and awareness, that will keep you alive. You're stepping into her world, James, and it won't be forgiving. I looked out at the misty harbor beyond the warehouse, the night stretching endlessly. Danger was everywhere, but so was purpose. My mother's legacy, her secrets, her fight, it was now mine. And I would face it head on, no matter the cost. The city was quiet that night, the harbor reflecting the faint glow of lights like shards of glass across dark water. I stood on the edge of the pier, Leonard Baxter beside me, both of us scanning the shadows. Everything had led to this moment, the discovery of the tattoo, the secrets of my mother's past, the threats that had stalked me for weeks. This is it, Leonard said, his voice steady but low, almost reverent. The people who want your mother's secrets, they will come tonight. You must be ready. James, nothing less than everything will suffice. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of every choice I had made. My life as an ordinary waiter was long gone. In its place was something larger, more dangerous, and infinitely more important. My mother's courage, her sacrifices had paved the path I now walked, and I would not fail her. The first figures appeared from the shadows, moving with precision, silent and deadly. They were the culmination of everything Leonard had warned me about. Skilled, relentless, dangerous. But I wasn't the same James Ward who had poured coffee in a quiet cafe weeks ago. I had learned. I had observed. I had survived. I moved with deliberate calculation, signaling to Leonard as we took positions. The attackers underestimated me, expecting fear, hesitation. Instead, they found strategy, focus, and resolve. Every movement, every decision was measured, informed by the training Leonard had given me and the instincts I had inherited from my mother. The confrontation was tense, almost cinematic in its precision. Shadows collided with motion, sounds of struggle and strategy echoing off the warehouse walls. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The threat neutralized. Breathing hard, I stepped back, my heart pounding in triumph and relief. Leonard approached, a faint smile breaking his usual stoic demeanor. "Well done, James. You faced them and survived. But more than that, you understood the world you've stepped into. That understanding will save lives, including your mother's." Looked out across the water, the city lights flickering in reflection. My mind flashed to the photograph of her, Renee, fearless and vibrant, and I knew that my journey wasn't just about survival. It was about honor, legacy, and truth. "Thank you," I said quietly, "not just for the survival skills, but for trusting me, for believing that I could step into this world and hold my ground." Leonard nodded, his gaze distant, almost reflective. "You are part of her story now, James, and perhaps part of mine as well. You've proven that courage, loyalty, and intelligence are not inherited, they're awakened. And tonight, you awakened yours. For the first time, I felt the weight of everything lift just slightly. The danger wasn't gone, nothing ever would be, but I had changed. I had stepped out of the shadow of my mother's past and into my own strength, prepared to face whatever came next. I touched my wrist, feeling the tattoo beneath my sleeve, the same interlocking rings that had connected my life to my mother's and now to Leonard's. It wasn't just a symbol of a past promise anymore. It was a beacon of who I had become, a man ready to protect, to fight, and to embrace the legacy that had been entrusted to him. As the first light of dawn broke over the harbor, painting the sky in streaks of gold and gray, I finally understood. My ordinary life was gone forever, but in its place was something extraordinary. The truth, the power to protect, and the courage to face whatever world awaited me. And for the first time in my life, I felt unstoppable.